Have you ever said yes to a salary offer and then spent the next 6 months resenting it? Or worse, tried to ask for more and instantly felt like you sounded selfish or money-obsessed? If right now you're between offers, thinking about a promotion, or just tired of being underpaid, stay with me. In this episode, you're going to hear a real story of a woman who turned a lowball offer into a fair counteroffer without losing the opportunity, the relationship, or her self-respect. And while you listen, notice what resonates with you in your own situation. At some point today, I want you to comment your biggest difficulty in salary negotiation. Is it fear of rejection, not knowing your number, or that feeling of, I don't want them to think I'm greedy? Let me tell you a story. This is about Sarah. Real person, real situation. Sarah is 32, a mid-level marketing manager in a tech company. She's the kind of person who over-delivers quietly. She's the one who fixes the broken presentation at 11:45 p.m. She's the one people message with, "Hey, quick favor." She's the one who trains the new hire without being paid to manage anyone. One day, a recruiter reaches out with what sounds like a dream. More scope, better brand, hybrid work, bigger projects. They go through 5 rounds of interviews. There's a case study, a panel, a conversation with the VP. Sarah does great. She can feel that they like her. The VP literally says, "We're really excited about you, Sarah. You'd bring exactly what we're missing." Then the email comes in. The offer. She opens it, heart racing, and her stomach drops. The number is 5% above her current salary, not the 20 to 25% bump she was expecting. And here's the painful part. The recruiter adds in the email, "We feel this is a very competitive offer for this level." By the end of this story, you'll know the one counteroffer sentence that changed everything for Sarah, the sentence that made her sound strategic, not greedy, and added thousands to her offer. Here's where everything went wrong. Sarah's first reaction was what most people do. She stared at the screen and thought, if I push back, they'll think I only care about money. What if they pull the offer? So she did what most professionals do in this situation. She started negotiating with herself. She gets on a call with the recruiter. Listen to this. "Hey, Sarah," the recruiter says. "So how does the offer feel?" "Yeah, it's good," Sarah replies. "I'm excited. I was just hoping it might be a little higher." "Oh?" the recruiter asks. "What did you have in mind?" "Honestly, I'm flexible, maybe just a small adjustment." Silence. Can you feel it? The power sliding to the other side of the table. In those few seconds, Sarah made 3 fatal negotiation mistakes that so many people repeat. First, she led with vague emotion, not value. She said, "I was hoping," instead of anchoring in impact, market data, or business outcomes. Hopes don't get budget. Results do. Second, she gave away control of the number. When she said, "Maybe just a small adjustment," she framed herself as someone who will accept anything slightly better. That's a green light for a tiny token increase. Third, she tried to be nice instead of clear. She softened every word. A little higher, small adjustment, I'm flexible. That's people-pleasing language, and it signals, you don't need to take this seriously. The recruiter replies, "Got it. I'll see what I can do, but we're pretty close to the top of the range already." A few hours later, a new email arrives. "We were able to move the offer up by 2%. Hope this helps." 2%. Sarah looks at the updated number and feels this mix of shame and frustration. She knows she just accepted a version of her old life in a new logo. That night, she meets a friend for coffee, and something happens in that conversation that changes everything. Her friend Daniel is a former sales lead who now works in partnerships. He lives and breathes negotiation. Sarah unloads everything. The offer, the phone call, the 2% upgrade, and the pit in her stomach. She finishes with, "I just don't want to sound greedy. I like them. I don't want to ruin it." Daniel smiles and says quietly, "You're not greedy. You're unframed." She frowns. "What do you mean?" "Right now," he says, "the only frame in their mind is, we already gave her a competitive offer and then we were nice and added 2%. You need a different frame. We're about to underpay a high-impact hire compared to the market and her track record. You don't need to push harder. You need to change the frame." Then he sketches out a simple strategy for her, a counteroffer approach that uses influence, not aggression. Daniel gives Sarah a 4-step framework. As you listen, imagine yourself using this in your next negotiation. First step, lead with genuine appreciation and specific value. Most people just say, "Thanks for the offer, I'm excited." That's generic and forgettable. Daniel tells her, "You'll start by making them feel right about choosing you." That taps into their need to be consistent with their earlier positive decision about you. So instead of, "Yeah, it's good," he coaches her to say something like, "First, thank you for the offer. I'm really excited about the role. The conversations with the team confirmed that my experience driving X, Y, and Z is a strong match for what you want to achieve this year. Hear the difference?" She's not begging. She's reinforcing their decision and tying herself to outcomes. Second step, bring in reality, not just feelings. Next, she has to move from vague hope to concrete reality. Data, responsibilities, and risk. "You're not asking for more because you want it," Daniel says. "You're asking for more because of the scope, the market, and the value you'll create." So instead of saying, "I was hoping it would be higher," Sarah practices this. "I've taken time to look at the scope of responsibility, especially leading the full funnel for Product X and owning the launch targets in Q4. Based on current market data for roles at this level in our region, and my track record delivering specific results, a more aligned base salary would be in the range of X to Y." Now she's doing 3 things. She shows she understands the weight of the role, she references market benchmarks instead of personal wishes, and she gives a clear range instead of negotiating against herself. No greed, just reality. Third step, use a collaborative, calibrated question. This is where the Chris Voss-style negotiation comes in. Instead of saying, "Can you do this?" which invites a yes or no, you use a how question that pulls them into problem solving with you. Daniel teaches her this sentence, and this is the one that changes everything. How can we get closer to that range while staying within your compensation structure? Listen to what this does. How can we makes it you and them versus the problem, not you versus them. Closer gives room, not an ultimatum. While staying within your compensation structure shows respect for their constraints. This is how you push firmly without sounding demanding. Fourth step, offer flexible levers so you sound strategic, not stubborn. Money isn't the only dial. Titles, bonuses, sign-on, review timing, equity, development budget, all of these are levers. Greedy is more, Daniel says. Strategic is, let's find the right mix that works for both of us. So Sarah prepares one more line. If it's difficult to reach that number in base salary alone, I'm open to exploring other levers. For example, a sign-on bonus, an earlier compensation review tied to clear goals, or adjustments on variable pay. Now she sounds like a business partner, not a complainer. They put it all together. They rehearse it. She literally paces in her living room saying the lines out loud until her voice stops shaking. Here's the short version of the framework you can borrow for your own negotiations. Thank you for the offer, I'm really excited. The conversations confirmed my experience doing XYZ is a strong match for your goals in ABC. Given the scope, particularly responsibilities, and current market data for roles like this, A more aligned base salary would be in the range of XYs. How can we get closer to that range while staying within your compensation structure? If it's tricky to reach that in base alone, I'm open to exploring other levers like a sign-on bonus, an accelerated review tied to clear milestones, or adjustments on variable pay. That night, she writes her notes. Short bullets, not a script to read word for word. The next morning, she emails the recruiter. Thanks again for the updated offer. Could we jump on a quick call to discuss a couple of details? The recruiter agrees. The final conversation lasted only 6 minutes, but those 6 minutes changed everything. 2 days later, Sarah steps back into that office. In her case, a video call window. You're about to hear almost exactly what she said. Listen for the 4 steps. Hey Sarah, the recruiter begins. Good to connect again. How are you feeling about the updated offer? Sarah takes a breath. Shoulders relaxed, voice steady. Thanks so much for making time, she says. First, I really appreciate the offer and the move you've already made. I'm genuinely enthusiastic about the role, especially owning the full funnel for Product X and leading the Q4 launch. The conversations with the team really confirm that my experience driving pipeline growth and launching new products is a strong match for what you want to achieve this year. The recruiter nods. We're excited about you too. Sarah continues. Because of that, I took some time to look at the scope and current market data for roles at this level in our region. Given the responsibilities, leading the team, owning revenue targets, and the expectations around cross-functional leadership, a more aligned base salary would be in the range of $120K to $130K. She pauses. Then she adds, how can we get closer to that range while staying within your compensation structure? Silence. But this time it's a working silence. You can almost hear the mental calculator running. Okay, the recruiter says. Thanks for laying that out so clearly. Let me think out loud for a second. The role is currently leveled at band 6, and the top of that band is right around 118K. Going to 120K or 130K like base would mean either an exception or bumping the role to band 7, which is a bigger internal move. Sarah listens. She doesn't rush to fill the silence or backtrack. That makes sense, she replies. Given the scope we discussed, I do see this as being closer to that band 7 responsibility level. I'm confident about delivering the growth targets we talked about. At the same time, I want to respect your internal structure. If it's challenging to reach that range in base salary alone, I'd be open to exploring other levers. What did you have in mind? The recruiter asks. For example, Sarah says, a sign-on bonus to bridge the gap in year 1, or an earlier compensation review, say at 6 months, tied to specific goals for the Product X launch and funnel metrics. Another option could be adjusting the variable component, if that's easier than base. Now the recruiter is problem-solving with her. Okay, the recruiter says. Give me a moment to think about how we could structure that. If we moved you to 118K base carry at the top of the current band, and added, say, a 10K sign-on bonus plus a formal comp review at 6 months based on agreed KPIs, that would put you effectively in the lower end of your desired range for year 1. How would that feel? Sarah considers. She could push more, but she checks in with her own alternatives, her values, and the full package. That direction makes sense, she replies. If we can confirm the 6-month review in writing, with clear, measurable goals linked to moving my base towards the middle of that range assuming performance, I'd feel good about accepting. I think that's doable, the recruiter answers. Let me confirm internally and send you an updated offer letter with those details. 24 hours later, the new offer arrives. The base salary is 11% higher than her current role instead of 5. There is a 10K sign-on bonus. There is a 6-month review written into the letter, with explicit language about re-evaluating base compensation based on Q4 launch targets and pipeline metrics. Numerically, Sarah gains thousands of dollars in year one and a higher trajectory going forward. Emotionally, something more important happens. She proves to herself that she can ask for more without being that greedy person. She stays warm, collaborative, and respectful, and still draws a clear line around her value. So what can you take from Sarah's story? First lesson, never negotiate from hope. Negotiate from impact and data. Before any conversation, write down your specific achievements and at least 2 or 3 market data points. When you talk numbers, you're not just expressing a wish, you're reflecting reality. Second lesson, use collaborative how questions instead of defensive can you questions. How can we get closer to that range while staying within your structure? Turns them into an ally. It invites partnership instead of confrontation. Third lesson, think in packages, not just base salary. Be ready with at least 3 levers you're open to. Sign-on bonus, review timing, bonus percentage, equity benefits, development budget. That flexibility makes you look like someone who understands how businesses actually work. This week, pick one opportunity, a promotion, a raise conversation, or an external offer, and pre-write your 4 sentences, your appreciation and alignment, your reality and range, your collaborative how question, and your flexible levers. Even if you don't have a conversation yet, rehearse those lines out loud. Let your nervous system get used to hearing you advocate for yourself calmly. Remember that mistake most people make, saying yes to the first number, or pushing back with vague apologetic language like, "I was just hoping for a little bit more." Sarah made that mistake too, but now you know what she learned. When you frame your counteroffer around value, reality, and collaboration, you don't sound greedy. You sound like a partner. Next time you face that conversation, you'll be ready. You'll take a breath, remember Sarah's script, and hear yourself say, "How can we get closer to that range while staying within your compensation structure?" Now I want to hear from you. Share your biggest salary negotiation challenge in the comments. Is it fear of losing the offer? Not knowing your number, or not knowing what to say when they push back? And if you want more weekly episodes on workplace persuasion, salary negotiation, and professional influence, subscribe to The Power of Persuasion on YouTube so you don't miss the next story. Your work already has value. Now it's time for your paycheck to catch up. Finalize a coração.